Week 4 of quarantine. I've got this. I have got this. A frequent fantasy of mine is traveling back in time and inventing electricity or fire or the wheel. I would write a great novel. I'd paint the ceilings of the Sistine Chapel. I would become greatness. Could I invent electricity here and now? Could I write a great novel? No. The fantasy is flawed. You know, Shakespeare wrote King Lear in quarantine while peasants were dying in the fields. Now, I can't write like Shakespeare, so maybe I'll learn how to bake instead. I mean, a loaf of sourdough over a poem any day of the week, and they left lots of flour. A note to all those curious. Don't get evicted during a pandemic. And a note to landlords. Die! I would say that you're bottom feeders, but the noble crustacean deserves better. Alas, I displayed a few passing symptoms of a certain deadly virus sweeping the world and was sent to live in this warehouse. Allow me to introduce. My name is Joni Bowers the Third and a Half. To elaborate, my grandmother was a licentious lady and was kicked from the family a formidable few times, yet on her deathbed she was still legally a Bowers, and the lawyers finagled a half credit to the name. So here I stand. They left lots of books, too. Mostly on planting and harvesting seeds and building and maintaining machines. How long I'm meant to be here is beyond me, and you would think I wouldn't be the only one. Hey, not to worry. I have been a friendless loser my whole dang life. I was made for this, you know, somebody else, they might crack under the pressure, but I will handle this calmly and coolly and collectedly. Shit. Now, you may be wondering about the hand sanitizer. Well, it's a good habit. You know, it looks like the panic buying hit the government too. They gave me novelty sanitizer. I mean, this label. Because maybe you shook hands with someone who's been uncontrollably shitting, and then you shook hands with them and now there's shit on your hands and now you're a big ol' shit hands. So wordy. Week 11. Better than week 10, worse than week 9. I discovered in the basement of the warehouse this storeroom. There was this big lock on the front door of it, and I say there was a big lock because I also discovered a fire axe nearby. Now, usually when I have panic attacks, I just kind of crumple up on the ground like a little piss baby, but this time I felt this energy pulse through me and I whacked it off. It felt pretty badass. You know, I felt like Hercules. I felt like a really, really horny Hercules. Horny for good bread. Of all the books that they left here, not a single one has to do with making bread. I know that there's flour. Maybe sugar. And salt, maybe, and maybe cinnamon or nuts. No, stick to the basics. Either way, I have been burning my way, sometimes literally, through bastard loaves, and constant failure, as I've learned through most of my life, is a very powerful fuel. But one of the books that was left here had to do with constructing technology out of parts. I built a radio. I think I built a radio. Yes. Okay.
Beginning? Okay. Protests erupted midday concerning several contracts with resource extraction companies, signed to finance a universal basic income in these trying times. Engagements have broken out between protesters and isolation enforcers stationed across the city. However, triages continue to operate at maximum capacity, and so all people are strongly advised to shelter in place. Anyone seen breaking isolation for non-essential purposes will be subject to fines or imprisonment. Updates will follow at 9, 11, and tomorrow morning at 6. This is...
So, I guess, statistically, this is a pretty safe place to be right now. And I built a radio. You know, maybe there's still time to do all the things that I want to do. God damn it, I want to make some bread! I know what you're thinking. By the way, it's week 16 of quarantine. You're thinking, oh, look at her, she thinks that sack of flour is a child. She has lost her mind. Well, I have not! I have merely transcended the boundaries of human instinct. Also, I learned how to bake bread. This isolation has been painful, brutal, and long, yes, but it has also given me time to self-reflect. I have clarity. For baking bread is, if nothing else, an act of meditation. First, my pride in my introversion was misled. Introversion as I lived it was a choice. Forced isolation is not the same as voluntary introversion. I need people to isolate myself from. Now, would I take that fire axe and chop 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 my way out of here? No. I've read that viruses can rewrite their genetic code and infect those that have been proven immune in the past. Negativity, it seems, is not permanent. A perspective. I took pride in my introversion because I saw it as some concrete characteristic of who I am as a person. False! I was merely too timid to make it in this world. Truth found. Ego bruised slightly. Next, on anthropology. If, in fact, I was not some sort of renegade who did not require the companies of others to achieve happiness, and that I am, in fact, quite a lonely dork, then perhaps I have never experienced true fulfillment. Yeah, that's a great hobby, yeah. Finding happiness, great idea. But recognizing one's faults does have an upside. There is a theory in pedagogy. There's a strange amount of homeschooling books here in the warehouse. Almost as though this is a place to birth a new world. Yeah, I'm not going to think about it. There's a concept called backwards design. It's when you know an endpoint and then you can build towards it. I want to be with other people. I want to be there for other people. But there are no people here. The fantasy, again, is flawed. So what does one do when stuck in a pickle like this? Why, you manufacture conditions. So, I carry around this sack of flour, a little weight in the crook of my arm that activates an old instinct. Perhaps not the oldest, but stemming from the oldest. An electrical current through a wire that turns on a light. A weight in the crook of my non-dominant arm, and I feel more satisfied. 1 + 1 = 2. I never wanted kids out there, but I did want something. Maybe it was just a weight in my arm. I figured out what I need to make bread. I wasn't using any yeast. It needs life to rise. I was a fool to think that I wouldn't come to love you, little weight in the crook of my arms. You're so easy to provide for and ask for so little. Yet you give me this weight in my arms, this light in the dark. You're such a good listener. I have forgotten everything else. Only this world is real. Here in the warehouse. My empire of bread. Bread and you. Am I a better person now? I've done things in here that I wouldn't have outside. Outside I would have wanted to be alone. I never would have learned to bake bread. Never would have made a radio. The person that I could have been out there. The person that you could have been, making on a sack of flour. Perhaps I could have found someone to love. Love me back, and together we could have made a weight for both of our arms that would grow too heavy to hold. I will hold you forever. And that little weight would have rolled and crawled and tottered and walked out into a world that no longer exists. You could have found someone to love you too. I would have taught you from my mistakes. We would dance together at your wedding, and we would be good because we practiced together. And when you were very small, standing on my feet, through your years, growing ever higher, learning your limbs, moving through motions, all the while I would try to keep time. You know, it's not your wedding that's important. I think that we romanticize weddings because it's the only time we really stop to celebrate love. Of course, I think those moments of love come in much quieter times. But we can't celebrate them then because they might fly away, flee over the horizon. I think it's those quiet moments that we have to hold on to. Like dancing at your wedding, because you've been able to find celebration with someone effortlessly. And our dance would be a quiet and gentle, I told you so. How could you not? Learning from my mistakes. And we would dance. Here I am, 64 weeks into quarantine, starving over a weight in my arm. I am hungry. When I first picked you up, things looked so bright. Thought someday I would be free. Memories hold weight, more than you can hold in the crook of your arm. So many things I thought would happen. I would be free. I would meet someone. I would make them bread. They would love me. We could make our own weight that I could carry in the crook of my arm. For as long as I could, defending them with my dominant hand for as long as I could. And we would dance.